So should unpaid internships be banned? Well, joining us now, the national organiser for Youth Fight for Jobs, Paul Callaghan, and also from the Adam Smith Institute, Sam Bowman. Thanks very much for joining us. Paul Callaghan, clearly companies gain from unpaid internships, don't they? But so do the interns. They're gaining valuable experience, they're gaining experience of the job, being in the workplace, having to turn up on time, having to dress a certain way. It's all useful stuff for both sides.
Well, it is all useful, but then there's the people that are there, they're now working for free, but also there is the impact it has on social mobility. In London, for example, it costs about £1,000 a month to go on an unpaid internship when you take into account the rent you have to pay and the travel that you have to pay to and from work. And it is linked to, it's one of the many reasons why there are such a low number of people from working class backgrounds in professions such as journalism, such as banking and the law and so on.
That's a fair point, isn't it, Sam Bowman? You can only afford to spend your summer, you know, like I did, working in a local radio station. If you're living at home with your parents, if they're happy to fund your endeavours and that you've got somebody backing you, and that's certainly not a situation that many people in the country find themselves in.
I don't think that's actually true. I mean, my own experience, when I immigrated to the UK from Ireland, I did an unpaid internship. I worked a job in the evenings and over the weekends so that I could pay my way through it. I had no money from my parents, and it's the reason that I have the job I have today. I benefited hugely from doing an unpaid internship, and I try my best. I think all employers should try their best to take chances on people. If they haven't gone to a top university or if they haven't had the best grades possible, then unpaid internships are a really great way of employers taking a chance on them and giving them that shot. They pick up the skills, they pick up really, really valuable experience, and I think generally everybody wins. Of course there are some exploitative unpaid internships, but there are some exploitative jobs as well. To kind of tar the whole thing with a brush just because there are a few people for whom it doesn't work out, I think would be a big mistake.
Paul Callaghan, how long do you think an internship should be before it starts becoming exploitative if it's not paid? Because, you know, there are lots of people who do work experience maybe a week or a couple of weeks. Would a time frame on how long an internship be a useful thing?
Well, frankly, I think that all jobs should be paid from the moment you start doing that work. You get paid at the end of the month for the work that you're doing. The problem with unpaid internships,
not work, experience. You know, a 16-year-old child. You know, we have them at Sky. We do internships here at Sky. Young people come for a week or a couple of weeks if they're on a journalism course, and they come here and they spend a day in a different department. They find out about how we work as a company. They're not working. They're not actually contributing to the output. They're coming for experience. Those kind of schemes exist. You can't pay people to do those, can you?
That's one thing. But these internships are people that are going in and they're doing parts of, or they are doing the job. They should be paid for doing that job. The problem you've got there, if you start saying that there's a time limit on it, then what you'll get, and we had the same with workfare a few years ago, what you'll get is employers waiting for that period where they can pay them for free to be up, getting rid of them and simply getting another intern up. And what it actually does then is undercuts the wages of people that are already working in these industries and in these professions. And it's got to be said, it's a damning indictment of the capitalist system as it currently is, that the only kind of work that is on offer for people are unpaid internships, zero-hour contracts, increasing informalisation and increasing insecurity. Is that all young people can be expected to look forward to? I mean, the commentator that I'm debating with here today has said that he worked in the evenings and the weekends on top of his internship. Is that the quality of life that we're seriously going to offer young people? You can either work all the hours God sends, or that's it. You're stuck. You're not going to get anything.
Sam?
Well, I'm really, really pleased that I did what I did, and it's just not true that this is the only option. I mean, there are less interesting jobs, there are jobs that give less good experience that do pay. You could work in fast food, or you could work in shelf stacking if you're a young person, and those do pay. But the fact is that these unpaid internships pay a lot in terms of experience and in terms of skills. And when you're starting off in life, experience and skills are a lot more valuable than the minimum wage or than a small paycheck. And I think it's really, really good if people get those kinds of internships. And let's be clear, a lot of these internships wouldn't exist at all if we required that they all be paid. This isn't a question of should unpaid interns be paid. It's a question of should we not even allow people to be unpaid interns, despite all of the benefits that gives. Now, you know, Paul has his own views about capitalism and so on, and I think that might be colouring his opinions here. But for the rest of us who really want to have the most interesting job possible, the best kind of job possible, unpaid internships are a great way to pick up skills and get your first step on the ladder. And I'm really, really glad that they exist, as are, I think, most people who have done unpaid internships.
That's a fair point, isn't it, Paul, that it does get your foot in the door for a lot of people. And if you think about small companies, think about a small engineering firm. They may employ 10 people, say, and there's a young lad who hasn't done very well at school, but he's got a particular flair for it, and he thinks he's got something to contribute. It's a massive ask to suggest to a small company that they should pay this young person a wage from day one, whereas alternatively, he could come in for a couple of weeks, see what he's like, and if he's any good, they could give him a job.
Well, alternatively, the government could run schemes where they get people placements with these small companies. I'm not having a go particularly at small companies here. They should be given help if it is indeed true that they can't afford to pay all of their workforce, which is what in reality we're talking about here. But when you're talking about big banks and you're talking about big law firms, you're talking about places like Sky News, in fact, then there is absolutely no excuse for it. These people have the money to pay their workers, and if they claim they don't, well, it's fine. Open up the books for the government to inspect, for workers' representatives to inspect, and we'll see if they really don't have the money to actually pay these people. But when the money is there in these companies, when the companies are making these profits, what is the problem with them actually paying people out for the work that they're doing for them?
Well, I should highlight that Sky do pay their interns. I was simply talking about the very short areas of work experience that we give journalism students that are just a week long. Sam, if you are doing the job, though, fundamentally, shouldn't you be paid for the job? You know, do you not think if you're going as an intern somewhere, you go there, you know, for a week, a couple of weeks, once you know what you're doing, once you're actually proving useful, do you not think the company should then be obliged, even if it's just the minimum wage, to give you something for the fact that you're turning up every day? It's ceased to be work experience anymore. You're actually working.
I think that's right, and I think people like Paul would really be helping young people by pointing out that there is a difference between an internship that's good for you, where you pick up these skills, where you get your foot in the door, and an internship where really you're just making the coffee, you're just opening the post and answering the door. The second kind, I think, we really should be discouraging people from doing, and we should be demanding, really, that firms pay workers for that. But to tar all internships with that brush would be a really, really big mistake, and it takes a really oversimplistic view of things. Most young people I know, people going through university, are desperate because they want to work in interesting areas of work. They want to do things that don't necessarily come straight out of the degree they've done. And the only way they can do that and get firms to take a chance on them and learn those skills and learn about the industries that they haven't been told when they're at university is to do these unpaid internships. And they really, really want to be able to do it because they realize how much they benefit from it. And I think, you know, speaking as somebody, we generally pay our interns, unless they're only coming to us for a week or two, as you said. It actually can be quite a burden to the employer to take on unpaid interns because you have to think of work for them to do, you have to make sure that they get a lot out of it, and you have to make sure it's worth their while. Now, I'm glad that we do that, and I'm glad that lots of employers are doing that, but if you turned around and said, we're not going to allow you to do this sort of program to help these young people unless you also pay them, you know, £7 or £8 an hour, I think a lot of employers would just say it's not worth the trouble, and that would make the young people worse off.
Isn't that the concern, Paul, that it will stop people having these opportunities? Because at the moment it seems that, I know you say that it's benefiting those who've got money, but it also benefits those who've got initiative. It's quite hard to get an internship. It's quite hard to get your foot in the door of a company. You're showing initiative to get in there. And if you want to stay and be useful, you've also got to show initiative. And those are both things that employers actually want and value. And you know, you're the right kind of person that they're going to want in their organisation.
Well, yeah, your previous speaker spoke about people gaining these skills and gaining these experience, but ultimately you're gaining the skills and the experience to the benefit of the person that will be employing you down the line. So again, why can't you be paid? But all this stuff about people, hang on, all this stuff about, I mean, all this stuff about people being, I have never met anyone who's desperate to work for free, quite frankly. I asked the man from the Adam Smith.
I'll introduce you to them if you want.
To go onto the street now.
You're not speaking to the right people, clearly.
Pick someone out and say, would you rather work for free or would you rather be paid for your job? People are taking these internships because they're all that are on offer for people that are leaving university. And again, I repeat the question: if the money is there for these employers, why don't they pay out?
Finally, to you, Sam.
Look, the people who go to Oxford, go to Cambridge, they don't need unpaid internships. They're going to do well in life either way.
Well,
It's people who didn't. It's people who didn't go to those. Hang on, Paul. If you'll let me finish, Paul. It's the people who didn't go to those big universities that really benefit from unpaid internships, because it gets them in the door, it gets them to prove themselves to these employers, and it gets them the kind of contacts and skills that they need so that they can break in. They can break into the kind of top tier of employment as well. These unpaid internships are brilliant for young people, and it's really, really sad that people like Paul are trying to basically close the door behind people and stop them from getting into the kind of top tier of employment that unpaid internships really give
Sam
them.
Bowman, we're going to have to leave it there. Sam Bowman, Paul Callahan, thank you both very much.